Welcome into another edition of Soccer Over There, live from the Brewhouse Cafe in Atlanta's Little 5 Points. I'm Jason Longshore.
I'm John Nelson.
Nick Alifi has a chair sitting here, but he's not here. It's there.
But there's no one in it.
Nick is still mourning the horrible loss of San Marino earlier this afternoon.
I saw the end of that.
Yeah, not good. Not good at all. We're going to get into international play. We're going to get into the upcoming weekend because there's a lot of interesting matches around a variety of leagues. But I think we have to start on what is typically an overreaction Monday with the U.S. men's national team and the loss to Mexico.
And folks have been overreacting.
Yeah, I'm sure they have. It's normal what happens with the U.S. national team when it comes to these kinds of games. I think there's a really big discussion to have, and I want to try to set the parameters of it as best I can off the jump, and then let's get into the overreaction Monday takes. I want to read a couple quotes from after the game because I think some of these got really twisted and mixed around, and there's a lot to play with here. So Greg Berhalter said after the match, "From my perspective, I'm happier about this game than the Gold Cup final. In the Gold Cup final, I felt our only solution was to play the ball long. Now we're doing what I'm envisioning." He also said, "We're making progress. That's not going to be your narrative, but it is internally," talking to the media. I also want to read quotes from two Mexican players. Hector Moreno said, "They pressed us a lot. They have a good generation of players with a good coach and are trying to change the way football is understood in the United States. They expose themselves to committing errors, but in the future, they will be a very well-coached team." Jonathan Dos Santos said, "It wasn't a simple victory, honestly. They have a new generation of players that want to change the way they have played historically. They seek to have the ball, play out from the back, and that takes time to learn, and that's why they made mistakes that we took advantage of. Our idea is the same, and we carried it out better." I didn't hear anyone from a U.S. perspective, from a media or from a fan perspective, say anything that sounded like what Hector Moreno and Jonathan Dos Santos said.
Zero.
I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing. It's really interesting, though, when you dig into this. And what I want to get into is this. You can be a program and a team that strives to play a possession style and strives to dominate with the ball. I think that is 100% the right way to try to play.
Yeah.
I think it's the right way to try to teach the game. I think you have more solutions, you have more options, you have more opportunities to solve problems in matches if you develop that way. The flip side is the national team program doesn't develop that, and develop is the key word. The national team program has players in training sessions for 10, 15 days a year. That's not how you develop players. Development starts at the club level. Spain played the way they did because they wanted to play the way that they thought was right, but they also were able to piggyback off of what Barcelona was doing in developing players, what other clubs were doing in developing players. And then they made decisions over their time where Spain was the dominant team in the world and in Europe, where they might not have picked some players that some would say were the best Spanish players at their position. They didn't fit the system. They didn't fit the style. So they weren't the right players to pick at that point. These are the bigger picture things to me. My question is Greg Berhalter acting as a technical director where he wants to, as Hector Moreno says, trying to change the way football is understood in the United States. That's a technical director role. That's a good thing to do because it needs to be understood. It needs to be understood that it's okay to have a lot of possession. It needs to be understood that it's okay to control the ball and control the game with the ball. Those things are all good. There's nothing wrong with that. To change the way that's understood is a good thing. But there's also results. And this is not a reserve game. This is not a U23 game. This is not a U17 game. This is a friendly, yes. But this is also a game where people are looking at the result against Mexico and saying, well, obviously Mexico is a million times better than the U.S. and there's no hope for the U.S. program ever, and we should just disband it. Because that's basically what some people tried to say.
Yeah.
There's got to be an in-between, and for me, there's got to be a clear focus on the mission. And if I'm on the U.S. soccer side, that's where I think they've messed up. Because if Greg Berhalter is going to be the manager through 2026, and it's his job to remake the way the team plays and remake the way that fans think about the way the team plays, and if you read some of his quotes, you can kind of see that that's how he's thinking. Okay, announce it. Say that. This is what we're doing. We are doing this to inspire youth clubs to develop players differently. We are doing this to inspire MLS clubs, USL Championship clubs, to think about the way they play and think about what that does to soccer in the United States. We are playing this way to inspire that change. And we know we're going to take our lumps, and we know we're going to get beat sometimes, but we are going to do this to lead the way. All right, say that. Make it clear. Because right now, I look at it as a team that cannot play that way effectively. And when they can, what are they going to do? When you get into CONCACAF Nations League, you should be able to control possession against Canada and Cuba.
Should.
If you don't against Canada, for example, what's plan B? I think the job of a national team manager, and this was my issue with Jurgen Klinsmann often during his run, the national team manager is not developing the style of play, not developing players. They are there to get results, and they're there to qualify for tournaments, and they're there to perform in tournaments. If they don't do that, then there's a problem. Now, if there's a different mission for Greg Berhalter, then announce it, say it, make it clear. Because I look at this and I say, all right, you were 1-0 down at halftime. You were being outplayed. You were having problems playing out of the back. What was plan B? Because at this point, I don't know what you do to beat a team that is superior to you at doing what you want to do. As Jonathan Dos Santos said, our idea is the same. They want to play the same way, but they carried it out better. They also have a manager in Tata Martino who is comfortable with, all right, we can't bet out of the back. That's fine. We're going to play vertical. We're going to play vertical. We're going to play any other team's half. We're going to play that way and change it.
See, what you've done in half a sentence is express a plan B.
Yeah.
Tata Martino.
But that's the thing, is Greg Berhalter's job to have a plan B. Because his comments make you think that his job is like a technical director. And his job is to take a blank canvas and make a beautiful painting out of it. All right, is that his job, or is his job to win games? Because I don't know. And if he's there to win games, he has to have that plan B.
Yeah.
If he's there to change the way people think about the game, cool, that's great. But don't sell me a ticket for $50 and tell me that you're going to win a game, because that's not your job. That's not what you're trying to do. I don't know what the job is.
Because right now, the action against Uruguay in St. Louis has how many tickets sold?
Well, that's what it comes down to. Let's start with the other one. The action for Mexico and Argentina's got over 50,000 tickets sold.
Mm-hmm.
The action for the U.S. and Uruguay tomorrow in St. Louis has 17,500 sold.
Yeah.
Mexico is the team that is selling tickets in the United States, not the U.S.
Correct.
And that comes to another picture here, and part of a national team manager's job is to win games, I think.
Yeah.
Well, when you lose to a team consistently, and they're also playing in your country, people are going to buy tickets for that team over your team.
Correct.
And that's where you're at.
3 times as many tickets have been sold for El Tri that have been for the U.S. match in St. Louis. And I know that people are sitting there saying, oh, it's a great showing for St. Louis and they won MLS. Not the
No, that's not a great showing for St. Louis. No, it's not.
And so
they have MLS coming, and they should sell more tickets than that.
But when it comes to disposable income, do you want to see that kind of an output right now? And the answer to me would be no.
Well, it goes to a deeper question, though. Like, what do you want to see? And this is where, if you are doing what Hector Moreno said, and you are trying to change the way football is understood in the United States.
Lay that out.
Lay it out and explain it, and then take your lumps. And then I know what I'm buying into.
Right.
Then I know, like, look, this is a team that is trying to do something that is different. Right now, you're selling it to me as this is a team that's trying to win games. And if you're not trying to win games right now, that's fine. It's friendly. You can do that. But tell me that a little bit. Be fair to me spending that money.
Yeah.
I'm sure we got a bunch of overreaction Monday takes from the game.
That we do.
Yeah, I was yelled at for mentioning Miles Robinson checked into the game. It was really bizarre. I had the Oglethorpe Emory game that night. I didn't get a chance to see the first half live, so I got home, turned on the game. Miles Robinson checking in. It's a really cool moment. I send out a tweet about it, and then I'm watching the second half. I'm not in a position to comment on the game at that point because I'm just seeing 30, 40 minutes. That's not going to be fair for me to rip what's happening, not seeing the whole match. So that's all I did. I was yelled at because I think, giving an agenda or avoiding something. I'm like, no, I just said Miles Robinson checked into the game. That's all.
Interesting.
Like, he checked in. It's a good deal. He's going to be there for a while. He's good.
Yes. And for the record, right now, from our friends at SeatGiant.com.
Okay.
If you wanted to buy a seat for the U.S. and Uruguay at Busch Stadium in St. Louis, and the way that they've kind of crammed the pitch in, it's going from the third base line out into the right field corner, but not really.
Mm-hmm.
$28 to start to get in the door. Home field box $150. Can't get some at $39 and up. But right now, the baseline ticket to get in the door in the 100 section, almost behind the net, behind the corner flag, $28 on SeatGiant.
Would you spend $28 to see this game? Because it's not Uruguay's first team. They don't have Luis Suarez. They don't have Edison Cavani. They don't have quite a few players. Good team. They're going to play well. They're going to be difficult for the U.S. to beat. It's not the full U.S. team. Christian Pulisic already went back. Other players have already went back to Europe. Players went back to their MLS teams. A few. Some players weren't called in. What's the selling point?
Yeah.
And again, if the selling point is we're trying to change the way this team plays, and yeah, it's going to take time, jump on board with us, then don't sell tickets for a stupid amount of money.
Right.
And be clear in what I'm buying.
Right.
That's all I want. If that's what this game is, cool. But sell it to me the right way.
And it's a Tuesday night in St. Louis.
I mean, the international games are going to be those nights. That's fine, but I would expect to sell more than 17.5 going into the day before the game.
Yeah.
I mean, Argentina and Mexico has sold that. Mexico's got their stars, but there's no Lionel Messi, and that was known. Argentina and Chile didn't draw much of anything in Los Angeles after Messi was announced as not coming with his suspension from CONMEBOL. So they had to discount tickets to try to get some people in the building at the Coliseum. It's not Argentina that's selling those tickets.
We got folks who want to know stuff.
All right, let's hear what they want to know.
Well, first and foremost, Marshall Boyd wanted to know if the Falcons are looking to signing Justin Miram after Money Man's contract ends this year, because a YouTube video has surfaced from the University of Michigan.
Oh yeah, I think I remember that.
In 2010, where Justin Miram, number 38, is a place kicker for the University of Michigan.
I have not seen this video lately. I do remember that. I think I remember it when he joined the crew initially in Columbus. I don't know what to say about the Falcons right now. I don't know if I want to say anything about the Falcons right now, to be perfectly honest.
For me,
it's boy.
When it was 28-0 third quarter,
boy,
the boss had a chuckle.
It was not pleasant. It was not pleasant at all.
Vine City FC. Wow, Zach Steffen's a serious liability trying to play out of the back, about a -3/4 to a -1.5 goals per game. # Apocalypse Monday.
See, and that's what it gets back to, and that's where I feel like you're trying to do 3 or 4 different things and not being clear about it. Zach Steffen has never been strong in distribution. He's never been strong with the ball at his feet. He's played for Greg Berhalter for a number of years. There are other goalkeepers in the pool that are better with their feet, and Zach Steffen has been anointed as the guy. I don't think that's correct. I think there's a certain large, bald-headed goalkeeper celebrating a birthday today.
Happy birthday, Brad.
Yes. I think he should have gotten an opportunity. I think he fits what Greg Berhalter wants to do better. That's where I'm baffled by it, in that, all right, if it is capital T, capital S, the system, with a trademark, according to Matt Doyle, if it is that, then pick the players to fit the system.
There's that logic again.
I don't know why that's difficult.
I'm right there with you. And then Vine City follows it up by saying, it's one thing to talk change, another to be played out of the park in your own country. Sorry, Miles Robinson had to be a part of that S***T show. And the hashtag continues, Apocalypse Monday.
Yeah, I mean, it's good Miles got the check-in. It's good that he's there. It's a good opportunity for him in that game. It's not really the best way you want to get your start. I thought he was fine. I didn't think he had any major issues. Some folks wanted to throw blame at him for the goal that was given up after he checked in. Don't know what else he could have done. That was one where Morales was shredded in front of him. Just absolutely shredded. Robinson did the best he could to fix it.
Artemis Prime on an overreaction Monday. The USMNT will never beat Mexico with Berhalter in charge. His system isn't able to be implemented at the international level.
I would disagree because Spain did it, but what I want to know is why was he trying to make his system that he used at Columbus more complicated with the national team? Because at Columbus, he never did the inverted fullback coming in and playing as a central midfielder thing. That's a very difficult thing to do. And it feels like maybe he's getting away from it, I hope.
Yeah.
It gets back to the bigger question. Is Greg Berhalter there to lead the way through the forest of soccer styles and say that this is how soccer in the United States should be played? I will show you, follow me to freedom. Is that his job? If it is, okay, we're going to take our lumps, and you're going to make mistakes, and it's going to happen.
And I want to see him wearing the tie on the forehead, loosely askew with a lantern, leading everybody through the dark tunnel.
Yes, a la Charlie Steiner from the ESPN commercials. If he does that, okay, cool, I'm in. I'm all in. If his job is to win games, then no, he can't do the system right now because he doesn't have the players to do it the way that it needs to be done.
Right.
He's going to have to be more careful. He's going to have to pick and choose about when to play out of the back. He's going to have to play a little more direct at times. And he's going to have a plan B, C, D, E, and F against better teams. And that's the thing I don't know what he's got right now. If he's going to play against a Mexico team right now that I think is more talented, not by as wide of a margin as some would lead you to believe, but they are more talented. Okay, if you don't control the ball, what do? What's your game?
Mm-hmm.
Do you sit back and counter? Okay, let's see it. Do you play direct and impress? Do you try to do a little bit of the Red Bulls where you just bomb it forward and you go and play in their half and then press them? Okay, let's see it. Because if your whole game is built on having possession, you got one team in your confederation that can do that better than you. Flat out. When you play better teams from Europe, they can do that. When you play better teams from South America, they can do that. When you have a style that there are going to be major opponents who can do it better than you, what do you do? Do you just take the butt whooping? Like, there's got to be more to it than that. And that's where I get frustrated, because it's one thing if it is just a friendly and it is just a learning opportunity. Cool. Sell me cheap tickets.
Yeah.
and make it clear that that's what this is.
Yeah.
If it is more than that, then explain it. But I disagree that he will never beat Mexico. That's an overreaction, because you can catch Mexico on a bad day. You can make tweaks. You can do things. Yes, there are things you can do to beat Mexico. But the way he wants to play, it's going to take that 1 in 10 to beat Mexico, rather than having a backup plan that gives you a better chance to beat Mexico. I want to know what his job description is. If he's supposed to have backup plans, we need to see him at some point.
Check.
If he's just going to play his way and he's going to beat us all over the head with it and say, this is how we play, lead us to freedom, then cool, do it. But let us know that's the job, because I just don't know what his role is. He talks like a technical director, but he's the coach.
Yeah. Topka, and Topka, I saw your initial tweet this morning, and it was a very humbling thing to say about SDH Anonymous, starting a group. If we don't have a show that starts at 9 o'clock on Monday through Friday, it goes from 9 to 11 plus. Very humbling, considering that you've been with us from the absolute beginnings of the Hour Show. You remember the Hour Show we used to do?
Yeah. We always run out of time to have 20 different things we wanted to talk about.
3 years ago, having an hour show, knowing we were going to 2, and then all of a sudden, 3 months later, we go to the second hour.
Yeah.
But it's very humbling talking that you and everyone else who's been with us since the absolute beginning have been hanging out with us. It's very nice of you to say what you did this morning. But Topka says he's 33.
Okay.
Strange to realize that I've lived and watched in the time of Federer, Nadal, Djokovic, Serena, Messi, Ronaldo, Brady, Rice, Moss, LeBron, Bonds, Woods, Tyson, Mayweather, Phelps, and even for a large chunk of Sampras, Gretzky, and Jordan. Let that sink in, and by Shrek Daily says you forgot Joseph Martinez.
Let me take that to a national team way of thinking. I remember when the U.S. beating Trinidad and Tobago was a shock. Mm-hmm. I remember watching the 1990 World Cup where it was, we scored a goal, thank God. I didn't think that would happen. I remember qualifying for 98 and that being a big deal, and playing really well in qualifying and having a good Copa America and beating Brazil in the Gold Cup, and those things as just mind-blowing things that weren't supposed to happen, to seeing a U.S. team play in a World Cup quarterfinal, and then coming all the way full circle and seeing a U.S. team not qualify for a World Cup. It's crazy the spins that this game can take. There has been progress. I mean, from 1988, when I probably saw my first U.S. national team game, to 2018, where they didn't appear at the World Cup, it's a far better program. Like, there's no question about it. But the margins still aren't very wide. I mean, you can have a couple of bad matches like they did in qualifying in that cycle and miss out because everybody else has gotten better.
Correct.
Then it comes all the way back to the whole Berhalter thing is, what is the U.S. style of play? Do we need one style of play? Is his the style of play that the U.S. should have? I think it's a great way to play. I do. I mean, Tata Martino always raved about the way the Columbus Crew plays. He always talked about they play good soccer. I have a lot of respect for him. I feel like maybe with the national team, Greg is still overthinking it a bit and trying to do more than just play, implement a philosophy, and say this is what we're going to be about. Now, we know we can't be about this in every match. We know there's going to be opponents where we don't match up well, and we'll have a plan B. But ideally, we want to be a team that controls the matches. I think back to the 1v1 that I did with Tony Annan, talking about Atlanta United's academy.
Right.
And a lot of people think that Atlanta United's academy or the twos should play in the exact same way as the first team. And when they say that, they think like formation.
Yeah.
Like, well, the first team's playing a 3-5-2 right now, so the 2 should play a 3-5-2, and the academy team should all play a 3-5-2. And that's not what it is. I think there's a philosophy that is overriding all of that, that there are certain ways that you play. You want to build out of the back. You want the ball. You don't want to be afraid of having the ball. When you lose it, you want to win it back quickly. You want to be responsible defensively. You don't want to get caught out. And you want to control games. You want to dominate. That's open-ended.
You're dealing with tenets as opposed to actual by the numbers. It has to be this, or this. It's got to be a 4-4-2. It's got to be this way. Instead, you have tenets to live by as opposed to an actual formational identity all the way through.
I mean, I guess it'd be the difference between, like, morals and ethics versus laws.
Yeah.
You know, like, you want there to be some flexibility in it because, look, I might want to play a certain way and have a right back that can tuck in and be a central midfielder. I might not have one of those. And I can't guarantee, and I think with a club you can't guarantee if one of those comes through. With the national team, you definitely can't guarantee anything you have. You hope you have players to fill every position and give you choices, but you can't guarantee that. You got to make the most out of what you have. But there's still a philosophy you can have.
Yes.
And I think playing a possession-based style, that's a good thing. So that's where I do hate that what's happening is making people feel like, well, possession is bad. And we went through that early this year.
Right.
No, like, you score when you have the ball, so you want the ball. But there are some teams, and the Red Bulls have been one, and there are others, and there will always be others, who decide that, you know what, we don't have the players to play that way. We're going to do the opposite. We don't want the ball. And we're going to try to dominate and control games by not having it. It gets to, I think Berhalter is making this a philosophical conversation, or he wants to, or that's his job description. And I don't know if it truly is, or I don't know if it should be. I'm really confused as to what I should be judging Greg Berhalter on at this point.
Right. Shiva says so many lovely things happening to Atlanta United over the break. Justin Merriam getting engaged. I did not know about that.
Yeah, Justin Merriam. You need to follow Justin Merriam on Instagram.
I do, and his brother follows me on Twitter.
Well, very nice, but you missed that.
I did. Escobar going blonde.
Is that a lovely thing? I mean, I don't know.
I don't know.
Okay, we have some ladies chiming in that yes, it is.
Well, then there you go. Miles making his debut in the men's national team. Rometty getting a new tattoo. Now we just have to make sure the pigeons don't get to the cup one.
You can't control what the pigeons do, and we picked out all the games on stoppage time on Wednesday, which was a kind of fun exercise. I had it in my mind that the schedule NYC and Philadelphia have, there's going to be points that they drop, and they play each other too, which is somebody's going to drop points. So I thought that it wasn't a must-win for Atlanta at Yankee Stadium. I didn't think it was a must-win game. I thought it was more of a must-result. You got to get a draw at least. And when we picked it out, that's what it could look like at that point. Now, if NYC runs the table until we see them, then it's a different conversation. They were in a really weird game with New England over the weekend. An XG of 4, which I've never seen in a game. Matt Turner made about 97 saves.
Almost.
And it is 100% fair to say he stood on his head.
Yes.
It is fair to say that about Matt Turner's performance. But New England still almost got a result, and it took a penalty. That was... I think it's correct. Now, the penalty was the right call. The red card was the right call as well. It was just really poorly handled on both. But NYC gets the win. Now they're going to face a Toronto team that's coming off of a big win.
Yeah.
A Toronto team that we'll see if Josie Altidore starts. Michael Bradley will be there. Omar Gonzalez will be there. And it's a Toronto team that's fairly desperate. So it should be an interesting one on Wednesday night.
Vine City's very busy with us today.
I like Vine City.
Vine City FC says, so appropriate to talk about the men's national team home game on soccer over there since the crowd is overwhelmingly for the other country. The referee literally hugged Chicharito after the first goal. I ain't mad at Mexico fans. They're more for Mexican atmosphere. There'd be no atmosphere at all.
There's a thing about the referee that it's a very different mentality with a Latin referee as opposed to an English or European referee. That type of stuff's typical, I think, with big players and big figures. I don't ever worry about it. I know it can rally up. Don't take the selfie on the field. Don't swap jerseys as the player's checking out. Don't get caught swapping jerseys. Those types of things.
Here's my rep kit, Chicharito.
Yes.
Can I have your national team kit?
I mean, it does happen. It does actually happen.
See that?
Yeah, it's one of those things. Look, it's a fact. Liga MX draws better ratings than any other league in the United States.
Yeah.
The English Premier League, Major League Soccer, Bundesliga, whatever you want to throw up at it, Liga MX draws better ratings. The Mexican national team draws great ratings. I saw that people wanted to make a point about on FS1, the U.S. women's national team broadcast on Thursday drew, I think, just slightly less than the U.S. men's national team broadcast on Friday. That's on FS1, not including the TUDN numbers, which would be bigger because of the Mexico game, so that factors into it. It's really a weird situation in some ways, but it's something that more and more I think people need to realize, if you're kind of new to the game or if you're not a native Spanish speaker, that look, the game's bilingual in the United States. It just is. And if you don't speak Spanish, that's okay. I think you have to respect the Spanish culture and heritage, and specifically the Mexican culture and heritage and what they bring to the table in the game, because that is the dominant business from a league perspective in the United States. And from a national team perspective. I mean, I think that's obvious at this point. 50,000 versus 17.5.
Yeah. That's it tells you right there.
Just flat out.
August 29th, the international friendly with the women's national team in Portugal had 224,000 viewers on FS1.
I think you might be seeing the overnights or something, because I saw larger numbers. Both were over 300 something. But they were similar. I mean, it's not a big deal. I think the 2-day NA number for the U.S.-Mexico game is going to be huge.
Yes.
Huge.
Putting it bluntly.
Yeah.
Let's see. Vine City also says that he wants to talk about the Berhalter interview last week with extra time. He said he's implemented coach development weeks. Quote, I went to Sevilla 1 week to talk to Lopetegui. I went to Switzerland to talk to ...
I mean, it gets just back to the whole point. Is Greg Berhalter's job to games, or is Greg Berhalter's job to change the conversation about the way this team plays? And if it is to change the conversation, I think it's good to go talk to these different people and talk about how they've implemented things and talk about experiences. But he's got to pass that on to other coaches in the United States. And that's a big issue, I think, when you get deeper into this question about changing the way that soccer is understood in the United States. U.S. Soccer just created a task force on the youth game, and there were no Hispanics on. Idiotic. Just absolutely stupid.
When was the last time any task force was worth the charter that it was written for?
You've been on some bad task forces, then. I've been on good task forces or strategic planning initiatives or whatever you want to call them. Like, if it's done right, it can be really effective. But if you don't pick the right people, forget it. It's a waste of time.
That was one of the biggest things. How do you not have any kind of representation like that off the top?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure. Fourcard Ahmed asked what's up with the sound on the app. What's up with the sound is I'm stupid, and I forgot something that would have made it sound better. So bear with us, Ahmed. It's like the bootleg that you get on cassette of Pearl Jam playing at like a small bar in Seattle. It's that. That's what today's show is.
The late 80s.
Yeah, I was still on vacation time this afternoon. My bad, Ahmed. I owe you one.
All right. Vine City also says about Berhalter that the guy's literally doing self-directed, on-the-job training with no deliverables for a year and a half.
It's tricky because, I mean, the Gold Cup, we said it coming in. He had to get to the final, and he did. So job done. All right, cool. Now what? CONCACAF Nations League, I think there should be some expectations on it. They should win all 4 of their games against Canada and Cuba.
Yeah.
I don't think that's asking too much. Then you're back to the same question when you get to a final of that, if you get there. Are you being expected to beat Mexico at this point? I don't know if you are, and I don't know when that changes. Because we haven't seen anything to say that it's close yet.
Nope.
So, is it okay just to be number 2 in CONCACAF?
We're number 2. We're number 2.
Well, last time you were number 5 in qualifying,
So
and you didn't go.
You're up 3 spots in the top 40.
That's actually a good thing. I'll take it. It's a start. But when is that not enough?
Yeah.
I don't know. That's the bigger question. Is I don't know when it's not enough. It's back to the job description. What is it? Is he here to win things, or is he here to change the narrative? If he's here to change the narrative, do a better job of laying that out. If he's here to win things, okay, the honeymoon's over. It's time to start winning things.
Joe Boss says, thank God we're on the air. He can't take any more Falcons talk right now. It's too depressing. They sucked yesterday.
They did suck yesterday.
Oh, they did.
It was bad.
There was laughter in the office.
That's true. They did lose the first game when they went to the Super Bowl.
They're going to lose more than just one off the top.
Yeah, I'm afraid of that as well. Ugh.
Let's see. Dan Graham says, also playing in the same city the women's team just played in. Bring it to the bench, you cowards.
Whoa, what? That was confusing. Bring what game to the bench? Just the U.S. men's national team?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
But it's got to take, I think for something like that, the Atlanta Sports Council needs to get involved, needs to push for it. I think that there is an issue that U.S. Soccer created for themselves about turf when they only booked the women to play at matches on turf, and they didn't book the men to do it, except one time in Chattanooga. And if they want to do it, they're going to have to bring in grass, because now that's the expectation across the board. Okay, that's a cost. That's $300,000 to $500,000. Somewhere in that ballpark?
Yeah.
That's expensive. It's doable. I mean, if you're going to sell the place out. The question about Atlanta for the U.S. national team, we know Atlanta, Mexico would be 70,000 plus, no questions asked. Probably majority Mexico.
Yes.
U.S. Canada in a CONCACAF Nations League match. What would that draw? I have no idea.
Yeah.
I think it would draw really well. I think you sell out the lower bowl, the 40,000, 45, no problem.
Yeah.
How much bigger and what price point, and how are you going to make enough to make the profit that you want after you bring in grass?
Right.
That's the thing. I still, and maybe I just am a little bit of a pipe dream here, I still think long term there will be technology in 10 years where you can have grass in that stadium, or you can bring in grass easily. I mean, that whole crazy idea that didn't come to play about Tottenham Stadium, about having like the turf field and you could have these trays that like pop out.
The high plate.
Yeah, no. They would like have things that would like pop out and like fit together. It was far more than the Phoenix thing.
Oh wow.
I don't know. I mean, maybe you get to that. Like like you hit a button and robots like pop trays of grass out and you fit together and it works.
Or you just flip it like a rotisserie. Like you've got grass on one side, the turf on the other. You just kind of turn it like a spit. It just all flips over.
I think the grass would die in that scenario.
Well, not if you watered it from the top down and you went through the turf.
But what if it's on the bottom?
Then that's a grass issue.
It's dead.
Yeah.
It's bad.
It's a grass problem.
Yeah, it's a problem. Okay, John's not going to be in charge of coming up with this technology.
No.
But somebody come up with this technology.
Who's got a good horticulture program?
UGA does. Auburn does. That's a good point. Auburn really does.
So if we get the SEC involved,
the SEC will save the day. It just means more.
Because it just does mean more.
People will be angry about that too. Oh man.
That the SEC has fixed the problem of reversible turf and grass.
Well, people will be irate.
Santa United has chimed in.
I see Santa United. He chimed in on Twitter, but he's right over there.
He did.
And it might have been Mrs. Santa who chimed in.
Yeah, really?
I know how that Twitter account works.
Yeah, we know who's in charge of the site. Do we think Berhalter's system will just take time like Frank DeBoer? If so, does the national team have the time it'll take, or do we even have the talent to execute what Berhalter wants from the team? # Monday thought.
I'll work backwards. I think that they do have the talent to execute it. I disagree with a lot of the experts who say that they don't. The Columbus Crew have the talent to execute it, and the Columbus Crew don't have the same talent that the U.S. can have. So, yes, they do. Second part, Do they have the time? That's the problem. Because you don't have training sessions like you do at a club.
Yeah.
And it goes back to, if you're going to develop a style of play, you do that at a club. You do that in an academy. You do that in a long-term situation, not in a short-term. Like, Jossie Zardes is not going to learn the role of a number 9 in a possession-based system in 2-3 sessions over a couple of friendlies. He can't. And he's 28, 29 years old. He kind of is what he is as a player right now.
Yeah.
If he is the best forward you have and you make that decision, okay, you have to play to get the most out of him. Don't ask him to do things that he can't do. And Berhalter had him in Columbus, so that's a whole other question. I don't know what's going on with
And
that.
then Siggy Schmidt played it right back.
Well, that's a big mistake that happened, and you know, mistakes happen. I'll give that one up. Jossie was playing poorly, but Zardes is a backup forward for the national team. But if Josie's not there, because Josie's back to goal play, fits what you want to do here in a possession-based system, okay, Josie would be my number 1 choice. Josh Sargent will eventually be my number 1 choice, but he's not quite there yet 100%. I think he's still got to be better than Josie. Okay, Josie's not here right now. Sargent is. Zardes is. It goes back to, are you supposed to beat Mexico? If you are, and you play Zardes, why are you playing in a way that doesn't get the best out of Zardes? I do think that the system will take time, and it's something that Michael Parker said about Columbus's system. It took a couple of years for it to get that point. You don't have a couple of years. Like, in a couple of years of training sessions with a club, that is a decade plus worth of training sessions with a national team.
Yeah.
So it ain't happening. That's not the job of a typical national team.
Nope.
Tata Martino came into Mexico. He didn't have the remit of, I'm here to change the way that Mexico thinks about football. He came in, and his job was basically get to the 5th game in the World Cup. Mm-hmm. Whatever you do, get to the 5th game in the World Cup. If you play defensive, I don't care. Get to the 5th game in the World Cup.
Right.
If you press, whatever, get to that game. Here it's different, and Berhalter has some different things that he has to do. I understand that. I'm okay with that. But the job description is not clear enough. And I think he's trying to do things that he just doesn't have the time to do or the ability to do, because if he doesn't have the right players brought to him from academies, from clubs, not youth national teams, from the club side, to play the way he wants, he's got to change. And beyond that, he's got to make the decision that, all right, this is the way I want to play, but when I play Mexico, they can play it better, or they can do something that takes me out of that. Now what?
Right.
And we've seen 2 big games against Mexico now, and the results gotten worse. Berhalter thinks they were better in this one because it was more of what he wants to be. You're still 3 goals worse playing the way you want to play against Mexico. I don't see that changing anytime soon, because it's not like a club situation where you play a team early in the season, you know you're going to have the whole season to get better, you see them later, you do something different. It's not even what Atlanta went through with the Red Bulls last year, where they played them in September, they got beat playing the way that they wanted to play. Tata Martino said, I can't play that way and beat this team, I'm going to play different. And he did, but he had some time to do it. You're not going to have that as Berhalter. So
the now what seems to be right now anyway, more like Berhalter saying, all right, so if A happens, then you're supposed to have a reaction to it. But the reaction from Berhalter right now is, well, no, this is my reaction. And things we're working on something, this is what we're going to do, and being this rigid about it is causing things to degrade when it comes to the numbers on the scoreboard right now, instead of an if what, oh, maybe I should change to adapt to the current situation. This gets back to the point that we've been making the entire time since we came on the air. It seems that the plan from Berhalter is more about a long-term philosophy instead of getting the instant result. Yes, I know it's a friendly, but you should be, trying to figure out how you are in the world theater. Mm-hmm. And for me right now, it just continues to go back to Berhalter saying, well, can't you see what we're doing? we're working on the long term, but you're like,
That's about how I felt after the game.
uh-huh.
I think I made that noise. Look, you had the possession advantage. You have not had the possession advantage against Mexico in a while. Cool. Let's get passed at a good percentage. That's good. Those are good things. That's not a bad thing at all. But Mexico pounced on your mistakes. They helped create mistakes. They pounced on them, and they punished you for it. And that's the issue.
All right, a couple other things.
Okay, what else we got?
Chiefs coach Steve wonders what the number of bodies through the gate will be because in St. Louis. Because of right now, 17.5 is the ticket sold. He wonders what the walk-up means.
I think they'll announce it at 28. What's actually sold? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what the revenue is going to be. There was a board of directors meeting with U.S. Soccer over the weekend, and it came out that they have brought in less money on matches than they had budgeted for, which isn't a huge surprise. And it will change a little bit with the women and their tour and doing really well at the gate. That will change it because it's all up together.
Correct.
But they have to revisit the pricing.
Yes.
It's so far out of whack. It's not even funny. They have to revisit that, and that's something that has to change. They should, in my opinion, look at what Arthur Blank did with the Falcons in 2002. Mm-hmm. Arthur Blank had a product that was not selling the tickets, and he had a building that was not empty. So he brought the ticket prices way down in the upper deck. $10 a game, $100 season tickets. Sold the place out. Sold it out before you saw what Michael Vick was and saw the excitement from that.
Yeah.
And then once the product got better, and once it was a thing, and once it was legit, okay, that $10 a game ramps up to $12.50 in a couple of years. Then it ramps up to $15, and then that's fine. If I'm getting my money's worth, I'll take that ride.
Yes.
As opposed to, well, no, we think it's valued at $40 a game, and we're not going to devalue it by selling it for less.
No.
And you're going to have empty stadiums, and it's going to look bad.
Yep. And that's a huge problem.
That's a big problem because, and this is a question when it comes to the national team performances on the field, and also that side of it, the dollars, the cents, the financials. It's not like you're operating in a vacuum because you have Mexico who is making more money and winning more games, and they are doing it in your backyard.
And crushing it.
And you have to compete against that on all fronts.
Yeah, and you're choosing for whatever reason not to. I'm handing you pen and paper for the next one.
That's scary.
Yes.
Okay.
This is what happens when Santa and Mrs. United are on the
Do I have to do math?
No, not math.
Okay.
This will not be Whiteboard Chronicles. This will be Legal Pad Chronicles.
Okay.
Crystal ball time.
All right.
What does our team look like and play like in 2026? Players we should have our eyes on. Any long game strategy for the USMNT that is or should be putting into play now. And I think that's what we're seeing from Berhalter. That's what we've been saying. So, your Legal Pad Chronicles, sir. What does the team look like?
Well, look, I don't have the player pool that deep because you're talking about players that you want some 20 to 22-year-olds in that mix. And right now, that makes them 13, 14?
Yes.
Like Alan Carlton, maybe.
There you go.
There's one name for you.
I was wondering if you were going to mention Alan Carlton.
Yeah, I mean, I think the way you play.
I'm pulling away the legal pad.
Yeah, because I might hurt myself with that one. The way you play, though, is I think you're seeing the bare bones of it right now. You want to build out of the back. You want to control possession. You have to develop more technical players to do it. You have to get U.S. Soccer, and I'm going all the way down to U6s, U8s, U10s. You have to get clubs and coaches out of the mindset of, I need speed, I need size, I need strength, and I need to win games for my U8 tournament. And you need to cherish the kid who doesn't want to pass the ball, who wants to dribble past every player and every parent in the sideline, You don't want to yell at that kid.
No.
Pass it, shoot it, first time, two-touch. Don't yell two-touch at an 8-year-old, ever. Now, if Berhalter doing this stuff about changing the way the game's played, changing the way the game's thought about, if it results in that, he will have done his job and he'll be much better in 2026.
I just had this vision of Greg Berhalter at a U8 tournament somewhere in Utah.
If Greg Berhalter goes to U8 tournaments in Utah and backhands coaches who tell kids to stop dribbling, I'm good with it. I'm good with it. I will go buy the VIP ticket for a game. If I get video of Greg Berhalter backhanding what would it be, a Provo dad? Yeah. It wouldn't be an Alpharetta dad.
Yeah, he's backhanding Provo dad.
Provo dad because he told some kid to play two-touch in a U8 game. All right, then Greg Berhalter can do whatever he wants with his lineups and his style.
Technical director, head coach. I feel like I'm dealing with a coach and a GM at the same time.
And that's not a GM, it's a technical director, because the technical director's got to be the one to set the way that the program thinks and operates and the philosophy. And if that's part of the job, cool, just make it clear.
Yeah, just tell me.
Because I don't want to go into watching the Mexico game thinking I'm watching it based off the final score line if I shouldn't be watching it based off the final score line.
Right.
If I'm watching it for progress, if I'm watching it for, look, we're going to play this way. I don't care what the score line is. I'm never going to tell my guys to lump it long. I want them to build out of the back. Cool, that's what I'm going to measure success by.
Fix your price point.
Then I know, but then I did that too. That's a separate issue. But yes. But then I know what to expect.
Yeah.
Right now, I'm thinking about it just like anybody else would. I see a score line that's 3-0, and that's that.
Yeah, and you've given me no reason to invest any kind of capital in seeing if they're anywhere close to me within a drive. That's Greg Berhalter, by the way, coming after me.
He's going after Provo Dad.
Yeah, 3GB. He's coming after me. But the thing is, it's like what you've done right now is you've given me no reason to have any desire to invest if you're anywhere close to me. If I'm in Little Rock, if I'm in Tulsa, if I'm in Champaign-Urbana, if I'm in Lincoln, and I had an inkling or a fleeting thought about driving to St. Louis to go see this match, for me, that's an after what happened, just on face value alone.
Yeah, because I feel like I'm going to watch a preseason game.
Yeah.
As opposed to a regular game, and that's okay. I mean, that's what a friendly can be, but sell it to me in that way.
Tell me it's a preseason game.
And price it like a preseason game. To get to 2026, so without like talking specific players, I think the national team program and MLS clubs, and not so much the first team managers, because I don't think the national team managers should ever dictate to a first team manager whose job is on the line how they should play. But to the academies, the national team program, the youth national team coaches, the scouts, the Major League Soccer Academy directors need to get into a room, and if U.S. Soccer is going to say, this is how we want to play, we want buy-in from you guys, I don't think you're going to get people fighting you on it. The Red Bulls might, because they have a very specific identity that they're doing. And that's okay, that's fine, because the clubs have to do what the clubs have to do. But most, I think, are going to say, cool, we can develop technique, we can promote players who are going to be technical players, we can look for the undersized guy that we think is going to grow into their body a little bit later. We can look for teams to play that way. I'm okay with that. I'm fine with that. And if U.S. Soccer wants to attempt to dictate that and sell it, because they're going to have to sell it, they should. That's what he needs to do to get to 2026 and have a team that can play everything he wants them to play. But what I want to see him do, and he needs to start showing it a little bit with the group he has, we saw it with Columbus. Think back to the game that I referenced a lot last year, and Tata Martino did some of it in the playoffs. When Columbus, who was a 4-3-3 team, all the way through 4-2-3-1, 4-3-3, same thing.
Yeah.
They go to Red Bull Arena, and they play 4-4-2, and they play direct over the top, and they scored 3 goals in the first half before the Red Bulls knew what hit them.
Yeah.
it shows that you can do those things to get results, and Greg is comfortable doing them. That doesn't have to be the way he plays. That's not his philosophy. But he has to show that he can go into the Mexico game now. And now that he's gotten it out of his system, he tried to do what he wanted to do. He was happy that the players stuck to it. It didn't work. Next time you see Mexico, I don't want to see that. I want to see him go in and play 4-4-2 and train the team. Look, we're going to fight. We're going to win duels. We're going to fight for the second ball. We're going to outwork this team, and this is how we're going to beat them, because obviously doing our philosophy isn't going to be good enough. If he does that, cool, I'm happy now. But he's got to show he can do that. He's got to, if he is hell-bent on playing this way, he's got to get buy-in from the MLS academies, because that's where his players are going to come from.
Stan, I'll give you two names. Will Riley and Garrison Tubbs.
That's just because you've seen them.
Yes, I'm being biased.
And they would be 24, 25 by then, so it's possible. The thing about Tubbs, for example, Garrison Tubbs is a player that in the national team picture, in the youth national team picture, nobody knows who he is. Nobody knew who George Campbell was last year either, and he's with the U20s right now. You get some that come along like Bello that you knew at a young age he's special.
Yeah.
Campbell was playing 3 years ago as a center mid. He was a tall, skinny, athletic central midfielder who has now turned into a strong, thick, physical presence who is adding the technical side to his game and getting comfortable playing out of the back. He's come out of nowhere. There's a lot of George Campbells out there. There's a lot of Will Riley's one who's been in national team pools, but there's a lot of kids who are playing in these academies who have not been noticed yet and who need those opportunities. On the women's side, Rose Lavelle. Rose Lavelle was a player that everybody said was too small. She can't make it. The women's game has to be strong, has to be physical. It's even more direct. Rose Lavelle has done it. That needs to be more of the norm, not the outlier like Steve Largent. Yeah, he was a very unique wide receiver. The wide receiver game hasn't really changed. If anything, it's gotten to be more size.
Yeah.
That has to change here in the U.S. It has to be. It has to stop being. I'm going to pick that player because he's taller, or he's stronger, or he's faster. It has to be. I'm going to pick that player because I can give him any type of pass and he's going to settle it. It has to be, I'm going to pick that player because he can make any kind of pass that's required and deliver it 9 times out of 10. That has to be the measuring stick. I'll always remember a assistant coach with the Silverbacks. He was with the reserves first and then was with the Silverbacks for a little while, Alejandro Pombo. And he wanted to, and you couldn't because it's not how tryouts work. You know, you do the tryout, you want to give the guys, a couple days to get noticed and all that, because they're spending money to get seen.
Yeah.
So you have to give them their money's worth. But his thing, he was like, I'm from Uruguay. When we do a tryout like this, I bring the kids together, I kick 5 different balls at them. If they can't control it, I'm sending them home. Because there's no point in keeping them, they can't play. That's the type of stuff that, if you did that in the United States, and you took the 4'3" kid who's a foot shorter than everybody his age and isn't all that fast, but is a wizard with the ball, if you took that kid, parents on the team are going to scream at you because they're going to think we can't win with that kid. That's what affects U.S. soccer far too often. If Greg Berhalter is going to change that by playing this way and being hard-headed about it, all right. It's going to take time, and I hope he's got that time to do it.
Yeah.
I still need to see some plan Bs from him.
Yes.
But if that's the trade-off, and by 2026, we're talking about the game very differently here, cool. That's 7 years. That's a long time. Is he going to get that time?
That's the question.
I don't know. U.S. soccer, I have no idea. It could be a crapshoot. They might be throwing darts at a dartboard to see what they're going to do tomorrow. That might be how they fill out their budget. I have no idea. It's so hard to figure this out because you can't compare it to what Gareth Southgate is going through with England. You can't compare it to what Lionel Scaloni is going through with Argentina. You can't compare it to what Tata Martino is going through with Mexico because
Greg Berhalter, either he has been tasked with this, or he has taken it upon himself to change the way that the game is thought about here and the way the game is played. That doesn't happen overnight. I don't know if it's necessarily his job. And he's going to have to figure out a way to do that while also getting results. Because he has to get some results too. You can't just lose all the time and make it work. Not in that situation.
End of hour number 1, heading into hour number 2. Here it is soccer over there here at the Brewhouse. Thanks to the folks at the Brewhouse for being tremendous hosts, as they always are for us.
New menu.
6 to 8 in the PM. In the post-modulation, not the amplitude modulation.
I always wondered what that
No, it's
was.
post-meridian. It's anti-meridian and post-meridian.
What modulation were you talking about?
Radio.
Okay.
Frequency modulation.
Oh, you're thinking AM and FM. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But no,
Okay.
anti-meridian and post-meridian.
Confused.
Yeah, so that's where we are right now, here till 8 o'clock. We got Monday Night Football, traditional weeks is at 8 o'clock. Here at the Brewhouse, we're here from 6 to 8 during football season. And if you have questions, send us your questions. It's an Overreaction Monday. And we have some folks still overreacting. I know we got a bunch of stuff going on internationally that we have to get to, since the gentleman who is normally in this particular chair isn't here. Yeah, sometimes I'm reminding everybody that Nick Leafy is not here today by getting the chair that he would be sitting in.
Yes, you can at Nick Leafy on
At
Twitter.
Nick
Yell at him.
Leafy and at SOC over there. So
All caps.
yes, all
Yell at
caps.
him.
And I know there's a lot of stuff you want to talk about. We got Twitters, we got stuff. Where do you want to go?
All right, let's. It is international break. There are some teams that are playing games that actually matter a little bit.
San Marino and Cyprus.
That didn't really matter, but I watched a little bit of it because, why not? It's on. It's never get to see San Marino and Cyprus.
Watch the last 20 minutes.
Yeah. Group H in European qualifying for the 2020 Euros is pretty interesting. Tomorrow won't really be that interesting because Iceland, France, and Turkey are battling it out for 2 spots. All of them have easy games. They're all playing somebody else in the group tomorrow. But Iceland hosts France in the next match. The way they're doing the playoffs for the final 4 spots in the Euros, they're using the UEFA Nations League. It's really weird. None of these teams have a chance to be in it. So it's 3 for 2 spots. They're all very even. We'll see if Iceland can get back to the Euros. The other one that jumped out to me about the European qualifying is England and Kosovo tomorrow.
Yeah.
So this is the second international competition that Kosovo's been part of. Last time they tried to qualify for the 2018 World Cup, they lost 9 of 10 matches. So far, they're 2-0-2 right now. They haven't lost. They're, I think, 1 point behind England. They're in a pretty good spot, and they're ahead of the Czech Republic. Now, they're playing in England tomorrow. I don't think they're going to get a result there. Who knows?
Well,
Is
is this one where if you're Kosovo, do you sit there and park the bus?
You park every bus you have.
Find the fleet, go to the Laredo garage, get all the buses, set them on fire, and hire Jose Mourinho.
You have to set them on fire?
Just turn them sideways. You're trying to set
No,
them
you want them up tall because it blocks more.
Oh.
You want them up tall. You want like 3 of them.
So you want them to
put them on blocks.
like nose to nose, and then that way they
Yeah.
kind of collapse. And
Yeah, you might stack one on top and like dare evil people to jump over
like in
it.
the Blues Brothers, where all
Yeah.
the hot cars are going over each other and crashing.
If you get anything out of it, cool. If you keep the scoreline down, cool. You might be in a good spot. That was the one team that jumped out to me that I did not expect to see right now in a Euro spot. No real major surprises from the early rounds of World Cup qualifying for 2022. Very cool that FIFA invested in televising the African qualifiers in the first round.
Yes.
Had a chance to see Bienveni Kanakimana from Atlanta United 2.
Guilty.
Played well. They lost on penalties, so their dream of making it to 2022 has ended. Knocked out by Tanzania. Burundi gave it a fight though.
Yeah, and I've been watching a lot of the CAF. I've been watching a lot of qualifying. I think because just of the intrigue.
Yeah, you get some wild scenes in some of these.
And the political undertones of some of the countries.
Always that.
I think Macedonia was playing today and those kind of.
Yeah.
So for me, as the political science major on the show, I always kind of look for those matchups to kind of see, okay, how do these two teams integrate when they're playing each other on the pitch?
So what did you think about CONCACAF's decision to use the Nations League as a Gold Cup qualifying process?
Completely, Doug. I'm
okay with it too.
Yeah.
It's a little funky the way they structured it, but it's CONCACAF. I'm used to it by now.
I'm also the guy who's watching El Salvador and St. Vincent and the Grenadines on 2-10.
Yeah, I mean, those are two teams who have been in the Hex before. I think St. Vincent's been in the Hex. They've been in the semifinal round at least. The biggest surprise that I saw was Bermuda beating Panama.
Yes, saw that.
Panama has really fallen off.
Yes.
And Bermuda's kind of come out of nowhere to be pretty competitive as of late.
Yeah.
Made the Gold Cup. Now, doing well in Nations League. I like that you're going to get these games that mean something. I like that in the next two cycles, the U.S. is playing Nations League matches and playing Canada and Cuba, not just more friendlies.
Yeah.
I think it will force you to get better, even against two teams that you should be able to beat. But this is the next test for Greg Berhalter. The Gold Cup was won. I thought the bar was the final. He got there. Cool. All right, now bar has to be the same in Nations League, and I think in the group, you should go 4-0. You should beat Canada in Canada. You should beat Cuba twice.
Tonight, as I stare at my CONCACAF Nations League group stage schedule, beyond Jamaica at 7, which is they just started at the Leonora National Track and Field Center, and then at 9 o'clock at Atto Boldon Stadium, Trinidad and Tobago and Martinique, and there are 6 matches tomorrow, as a matter of fact. Puerto Rico, Turks and Caicos, Montserrat, Dominican Republic, Haiti, and the Caymans. Busy schedule for me. My head's going to be on a swivel.
You forgot about Atto Bolden from the Trinidad and Tobago. Record sprinter.
Yeah. He was not slow.
He won medals at the 96 Olympics. That's why I remembered the name from here in Atlanta.
And I think also, didn't he work for the Peacock in their Olympics coverage too?
Oh, he could have. One tweet about tomorrow's match for the U.S. that we hadn't talked about yet. Our friend Felipe Cardenas tweeted out, because he is in St. Louis covering this. Greg Berhalter confirmed that Jackson Ewell will start tomorrow against Uruguay. Alfredo Morales was injured. He's out for a while, it sounds like, with a lot of players going back. I think Miles Robinson will start.
Yeah.
I like the idea of seeing Jackson Ewell in this match.
Backdrop soccer, here's a couple of thoughts.
Okay.
The problem is, and this is referring to the national team, is that they took a while to hire the coach they wanted. And a lot of the Berhalter era, minus maybe the Gold Cup, has been inconsistent/experimental. With World Cup qualifying in the near horizon, the time for experimentation was a year ago. It's closing in on crunch time.
And national teams don't have as much freedom and time to install systems.
Right.
Look, we've talked about it a lot on the show. The calendar for the hire. There were a few things that you were not going to hire Greg Berhalter right after Bruce Arena stepped down / was fired. You couldn't, because you had a presidential election coming up, and you had a lot of political issues in U.S. soccer. Sunil Gulati was not going to name the next manager as a lame duck president of U.S. soccer. So you had to get through that cycle.
Yeah.
All right, you get to the elections. It was contentious. Carlos Cordero wins it. One of his first jobs is to make sure that you get the bid for 2026 done and you get that World Cup.
Yes.
That took away some time. I'm okay with that. You still should be able to do multiple things, I would hope. You didn't. The general manager, who was supposed to be involved in this hire, wasn't hired until August, which was ridiculous.
Yes.
Then you hire Berhalter after that. I think you probably could have bumped it up a little bit. I think Berhalter could have had an influence on the games late last year.
No doubt.
I don't think he would have had any influence up until the World Cup was done. I think if he had, at least while he finished out the season with Columbus, had influence on roster selection in the fall friendlies last year, influence on the way he wanted to see the team play, those types of things, cool. But you didn't get any of that. Then he's figuring it out as he goes early on. You get what you have. I agree. It's been too much inconsistency, experimental stuff. I don't know how realistic it would have been
to accelerate the process by much.
Yeah.
A little bit, maybe a couple windows.
But it was the worst kept
Not
secret
much.
known to mankind.
That's what we think. I mean, I don't really have any information to go otherwise. I don't know. I do think maybe the Jay Berhalter shadow government idea is maybe a little too much. I don't know if Jay Berhalter named the manager. Look, Greg Berhalter being named the manager is not a shock. Greg Berhalter was a former player. Greg Berhalter had success with Columbus. He was thought of very highly. It's not like they went out and hired some random person off the street that had no credibility. Yeah, Provo Dad did not get the job. So it's funny that the whole narrative has gone from, all right, it's going to be Greg Berhalter, he's the best candidate, he's the one, we're not going to look outside the U.S., that's the guy, to now he shouldn't be there because he's not qualified. No, that's just not true. I think he's being a little hard-headed. I think he needs to be a little more flexible. Yeah. And I think we also need to be told clearly what his job is. I do think, and I said this when it happened, and I will say it forever, that if the whole thing, and it's not, like it wasn't stated by U.S. Soccer in a press release about the manager has to speak English.
Yeah.
I do think that was incredibly stupid. Because you had a guy in Tata Martino with success, knew the league, who expressed an interest in the job. And you didn't even talk to him.
That's ludicrous.
And yeah, I mean, you still might not have hired him. Mexico probably would have offered more money. And you still might be in this situation, but to not even consider it, not even take an interview is a little dumb. Yeah, it's a little dumb. I mean, look, will Tata Martino be far more successful than Greg Berhalter is right now? I don't know. I don't know if that's a guarantee. I don't know if Mexico had went out and hired, I don't know, whoever. If they went out and hired somebody and it's a Gold Cup final with Tata Martino managing the U.S. against whoever leading Mexico, Mexico's still a little more talented.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a guarantee that you have a different result. I think you would have maybe a little more clear-cut idea of what is happening. So I think Tata was pretty good about laying that out. I don't think Tata would have taken the job if he hadn't been able to lay that out very clearly. Tata Martino doesn't just take a random job because it's a nice check. When you are going to hire Tata Martino, he comes to you with a document and he says, I'm only going to work if you give me X, Y, Z, A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. And that's non-negotiable. That's how it was here. That's how it was in Barcelona. That's how it was with Argentina. That's how it is. And that's Mexico agreed. And that's why he named his own people. That's why the staff is a lot of the same people from Atlanta, the same people that were in Barcelona, the same people who were with Argentina. If he was with the U.S., I don't know if it necessarily changes the results. So that's an easy one to bring up. I don't think it's necessarily correct. Berhalter was a qualified candidate. He was hired. I just want to know what the whole idea is with the hire, because if he's there through 2026, which I'm not the biggest fan of. I like managers or World Cup cycles 4 years. This is a little unique because you're hosting in 2026.
Right, I get that.
It does change it a little bit. If you're going to take that opportunity to reset the narrative, cool, make it clear. I just don't know exactly how this is going to go, because he's got an extremely short leash with the media and with the fan base right now.
Yeah.
He's got a team in his backyard led by a manager that now a lot of people are throwing in, because this didn't happen last year. This did not happen last year when Taylor Twellman talked about it on national broadcast. Tata Martino is interested in the job. And there was whispers and there were little things said like, the whole thing about not speaking English, like that's kind of dumb. It was mentioned, we talked about it a lot.
Yeah.
It wasn't a huge national narrative. So it's a little unfair to now, like, that's the whole thing.
Yeah.
And that's the easy...
I mean, it's a vaccine narrative.
It's the easy thing to throw at Berhalter and say, well, you suck because they could have had Tata Martino.
Yeah.
Well, that wasn't talked about before.
Now, it's a different island story.
Yeah, it's just a whole different conversation. I just want to know how this is going to play out, because right now, I don't know. I mean, you lose 3-0 to your rival. Yes, it's a friendly. You lost Gold Cup final to them. You didn't look great in either one. However you want to judge it, I don't think either one was anything to really be celebrating too much. That's where you're at right now. They're selling a whole bunch of tickets. You're not. They're making a whole bunch of money. You're not.
To tell you something.
There's a lot of issues. And my hope is that Berhalter and his way he wants to play and his ideas, and he's got the leash to do it, and he's got the time to do it, and I hope it changes the way soccer is truly thought about in the United States. And I hope that we get out of some of the knee-jerkiness, and I hope that we get out of hashtag USMNT being the worst place in the world on a match day. I hope that we get past that. But
meet me just, you don't have to meet me halfway. Just meet me a little bit here and tell me what's going on when it comes to Berhalter and his plan. If he's GD and he's coach, fine. Just lay it out for me this way. If I'm supposed to be anticipatory over a 7-year period and tell me that this is a long game, I'm down with it, but you got to tell me it's a long game instead of sitting here with a short-term idea with folks in a fan base who are sitting there saying they're looking at the next tournament. They're looking at the next tournament. They're looking at the next thing. Yeah. And the results leading up to whatever that next marker is to the fans, it's not working. And they're wanting answers. And Berhalter is sticking to a 7-year narrative.
Well, no, he's not, though, because he's not really saying that. He's just saying
we're building.
Yeah, which, I mean, is true. I mean, I don't think that's a lie.
No.
I don't think.
But the quote machine seems to be more of a long-term thing as opposed to what the fans and supporters and those who are covering it are looking at. I think we have more immediacy when it comes to coverage and conversation, and I think it's different from what we're seeing from Berhalter, who is playing the long game with his quotes.
Well, it's a complicated thing because we watched it play out here in Atlanta this season. There was a lot of dumb things said early in the year by a lot of people who are very smart, and a lot of knee-jerk reactions, a lot of things that were just way past an overreaction Monday.
Yes.
About the way Atlanta United was playing, and taking it to a point that, like, whenever you mentioned the word possession, I felt like people were going to throw things at me. And that should not be the case. Like, I don't know if what he's trying to do, I don't know if people want to buy it right now. The comment, the two quotes he had that jumped out to me that we mentioned at the top of the show. We're making progress. That's not going to be your narrative, but it is internally. I don't have a problem with that. I don't know if I necessarily say it that way, but the gist of it, they're making progress. Yeah. I'm cool with that. I would never say I'm happier about a 3-0 loss in the Gold Cup final. That's bad media work. Like, that's a bigger issue. That's like bad PR.
Yeah, that's bad.
That's not, like, what he's talking about, like, playing the way that he wants them to play. Yes.
That was a horribly constructed quote.
You're not going to sell anybody on a 3-0 loss.
No.
Forget it.
Nope.
So there's a PR campaign that needs to be won here. There's a player development campaign that needs to be won here. There is a winning over of the fan base that needs to happen here. And I don't think U.S. soccer is positioned to win any of those. I think Greg Berhalter might do everything correctly. He might try to build something for the long haul. He might have 7 years. He might know that that's what he's got, especially if his brother's hired as the CEO.
Yeah.
That makes it a little bit easier.
Yeah.
But he might know that he's got all that in place and still might fail on everything else because the organization is not structured to support him to affect the change that needs to be affected. And that's where this is even more complicated than any other national team manager in the world.
Backdrop also says that making the delay in hiring was a glaring problem. I still think the men's national team make the World Cup this time around and his job is safe.
Oh, yeah.
But anything short of that is a failure. It puts the entire generation of players in limbo. Lots of pressure to deliver, and people are going to lose
generations of players being lost and in limbo because of the growth of Major League Soccer, and that growth is not going to go away because of the national team.
Right.
They will qualify this time. I don't see that happening again. I think they'll be okay. I think they are back to being that number 2 in CONCACAF. You look at Costa Rica, you look at Honduras, you look at Canada, who's better, you look at Panama, who's dropped off. Does Guatemala or El Salvador step up? I don't know. But I think the U.S. is clearly number 2. Okay, you're going to qualify that way. You're good. Now what? Is it just that? Is that good enough? No, it shouldn't be. I don't think you're going to risk losing a generation of players. I do think the delay slowed it down. There was going to be somewhat of a delay because you just couldn't avoid it. But don't freak out about every half that the U.S. plays. I think that's something that we do that is a little distressing because there are changes that need to be made. I do think that Hector Moreno is 100% correct. Like, you have a good generation of players. It's not like you have produced worse players than you had before.
Yeah.
You've produced more quality players than you've ever had. That's because of MLS academies. That's because of Major League Soccer. That's a fact. You haven't. Have you produced a Lionel Messi? No, and a lot of countries haven't. You do have a Christian Pulisic who spent the majority of his youth career in the United States. You were lucky that he had a dad who was a former professional and was able to do all of the stuff outside of the club game that helped prepare him to be who he is. He has the ability to be the best player the U.S. has ever seen. Landon Donovan and Clint Dempsey, I think, are both sitting in that chair right now. If Pulisic stays healthy and continues to develop, he will be that guy. Weston McKennie could be a very special talent. I am not trying to look at this through an Atlanta United prism, but I think Miles Robinson could be a very special center back for this national team program for a decade plus.
No question.
I think you have things that you didn't have before. So you have that good generation of players. You have a good manager. I mean, Greg Berhalter's a good manager. He's not a dummy. He's not an idiot. He knows what he's trying to do. He has a system. Jurgen Klinsmann did not have a system. Jurgen Klinsmann said a lot of things. Jurgen Klinsmann won the PR battle. Jurgen Klinsmann won the press conference.
Yeah.
And he destroyed Greg Berhalter in the press conference. But he didn't have a coherent way of playing. He said, we're going to be proactive, and then they were the most defensive team in U.S. history at a World Cup in 2014. More defensive than Bora, more defensive than the 90 team. It was a bunch of college kids. They were not proactive. That's what he sold. That wasn't what they were. And then he lost in a Gold Cup semifinal. It fell apart at the end for him. He lost the team. Berhalter has a coherent way that he wants the team to play. He needs to have a little more flexibility. Hopefully he learns that. I think Berhalter's a better manager than Klinsmann. I think he's a better manager than Bruce Arena at this stage. I think he is Bob Bradley now is a little different, but Bob Bradley's never going to take that job again.
No.
Berhalter could be a better manager than Bob was when he was in charge of the national team. He's not winning the PR battle. He's not getting any help in that.
Nope.
That's where this all gets very complicated. I hope that he does what it seems like he is trying to do. But I feel like I'm doing a lot of hoping and wishing at the moment, and I'm not seeing a lot outside of getting to the Gold Cup final that does it. He hasn't had a lot of opportunities because he has had one tournament and he got to a final.
Yeah.
That was the bare minimum he accomplished it. All right, let's see how CONCACAF Nations League does, because that's another competition.
Yeah.
Let's see where he goes there, and then you get into qualifying.
About a half hour ago, Kirkenberg was the last thought on Twitter for now.
I see him.
And he said, yeah, me, if I were the head of U.S. Soccer to Greg Berhalter after that match, and he pulls the Dave Chappelle gift where he's the president and he just smashes the water jug across the meeting table.
Yes.
So an upset Dave Chappelle gift is what Kirkenberg brought to the table.
I don't know if I would have done it after the match. I definitely would have done it when he was trying to argue with the media about the first half being 50-50 and it was pretty even, all that kind of stuff.
That, no.
I would, after that press conference, I would hit him over the head with whatever jug of water I have, and then I would take him to media training.
Yeah.
Because he's got to sell it. Because that's part of the job. Especially when you're trying to do what he's doing. You don't have a U.S. soccer fan base that I think gets what he's trying to do. And I'm basing this a lot on what we saw here in Atlanta because everybody freaked out about possession as a bad thing.
Yeah.
So when it doesn't work, everybody's going to yell, well, you need to just lump it long. Well, I hope you don't have to lump it long at some point. Maybe that's what you got to do right now. But he's trying to change it. Sell it to me. Don't argue with the media. Don't tell me that a 3-0 loss is better than the Gold Cup final loss. Sell it to me.
Yeah.
Hey, we came into this match with a very clear way we wanted to play. We stayed true to that. We were not as strong in execution as we have to be. All fair. That's fine. Then at least I know, like, okay, cool. They came in, they were going to play a certain way, they stuck to it, and it didn't work.
Yep.
Now I want to see something different next time. Don't argue with people, like, sell it.
Yeah.
That's what I'd be mad about if I was Carlos Cordero, but I don't know what Carlos Cordero is judging him on. And I don't know what Ernie Stewart's job is because he was hired to be a GM of the men's side, and he got promoted to something over all of them.
Yeah.
And now there's no GM on the men's side, so I don't know what that was supposed to be. And I don't know, I'm confused.
Grand exalted poobah.
Whatever. I mean, I guess that's the card. But does he organize the media training for his manager who's getting press conferences and making it work?
I'm sure that it's someone below him in the ladder.
Ooh. They all seem to hate their jobs if you look at Next Door or Open Door look at the website.
I think it's Jonathan Tuttle.
It could be. I don't know.
Jonathan Tuttle's gig.
Somebody needs to help.
Either him or Murdoch. One of the two. So we're officially caught up on Twitter for the final half hour of the show.
All right.
This is on your mind.
Well, we're going to get into, we're going to look ahead to the games coming up around the world this weekend. And we get back into league play. And you can watch all of these here at the Brewhouse Cafe, little 5 points. Brewhouse_Cafe on social media. Look for the Brewhouse Cafe on Facebook for all your updated schedule. There's a couple leagues that I'm going to ask you a question about each of these games. The match of the weekend, though, is in Germany. Because there's not really great matchups in England or Italy or Spain. There's a couple intriguing ones, but the match of the weekend, 1 versus 2 in the Bundesliga, RB Leipzig hosting Bayern Munich. We know Bayern Munich. We know they've won like every championship since the league started, it seems like.
I've heard about this RB Leipzig.
Is RB Leipzig and Timo Werner, are they for real?
This is your test.
They're hosting Bayern 12:30 on Saturday.
Well, all right, so let me ask you this. How do you define for real? I mean, is it a type of game where they know?
Winning the championship.
Oh, the championship. I thought you were talking about this particular week.
Well, yeah, you're at home. Yes, you're at home. You should beat Bayern Munich at home. But that's the problem. If you're RB Leipzig and you go into this game that, I just hope we get a draw against this team. You're at home. No.
I know what. I mean, if you're RB Leipzig, if you think internally that you are for real, you're expecting yourself to go and win. Personally, I don't see it happening.
Well, then you don't think they're for real, because that was the question.
But the thing is this a for real for now or for real for the entire season? That was what I was getting at. Up to this point, we've seen them do tremendous things.
You're far enough in. You've got to show something here. You're at home. You're not going to get Bayern at home later this year. You're at home here. You need to find a way to win this. Or if you're for real, you're going to win this.
I don't think so. I think Bayern's going to win.
Well, then you're not for real. That answer given.
You're Erzatz Leipzig.
All right. In Italy, Saturday, 9 a.m., Fiorentina hosting Juventus. Fiorentina is a team that should have a reality show on them because it's crazy. Rocco Camiso's throwing money around like a madman. He has a madman involved as his right-hand man, and they've got Frank Ribery like out of nowhere. But it's Juve. Maybe it's a little tricky for Juve.
A little tricky early, but I think Juve takes it.
They should. Fiorentina, I think, needs a year to build.
Manchester United hosting Leicester Saturday, 10 o'clock. It's the worst start to the season in 27 years for Manchester United. Is Ole Gunnar Solskjaer in trouble, and should he be?
Should he be? No, because he needs to do a lot more rebuilding than what he's done so far. Frankly, for me, I would have gotten rid of Ed Woodward a long time ago, but I don't know why Woodward gets to hang around as long as he does. I think Ed Woodward is the issue. I don't think Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is the issue. I think that this ends up being probably something along the lines of 2-1 Manchester United. I think that Jamie Vardy makes it, or Yuri Tielemans makes it a squeaky bum time for the wrong reason, but I think that Manchester United gets the win.
Another Saturday 10 a.m. one, Tottenham hosting Crystal Palace. So Palace is in 4th place. They'll blow it eventually because they're Palace.
Check.
But Pochettino is 6-1 as the next Premier League manager to leave their club. Not necessarily get fired, but to leave the club.
Okay.
Is that going to happen? Because Solskjaer's right there with him at 6-1. I think those two are joint favorites to be the next manager to leave.
No.
Probably according to Ladbrokes.
Yeah, really. I mean, considering that Javi Gracia was let go by Watford after their start, and who did they bring in, by the way? Meet the new boss. Same as the old boss. Quique Sanchez Flores. He comes back from Shanghai Shenhua. Yeah. It's like, yeah, sorry we screwed up last time. Come on back. Really? Exactly. I just... Oh, goodness.
So who goes first? Pochettino or Solskjaer? Pochettino leaves Tottenham before Solskjaer leaves Manchester United.
Well, I think
Really?
I think Pochettino leaves before Solskjaer is fired.
I don't think so. I think he's
Solskjaer can sit back now.
I have a bad feeling Manchester United is going to do something stupid and fire him because they're not happy about the results, and then they're back in this cycle of the same old crap that they've turned into as a mid-table team.
Yeah.
Because that's what they are now.
Yeah, I mean they're at the tail end of the Big Six.
They have no identity.
No, they don't. And when you're Manchester United and you have no identity, I mean that's a bad scene. But I'm sitting here looking at who else might be on the table. Is it Hodgson once Crystal Palace falls off the table? Is it Hasenhüttl as Southampton struggles to stay afloat? Is it Brighton when they don't find any offense? Is it Steve Bruce with Newcastle?
Ooh, I think he's up there. I think he's 6-1 with them.
My money would be on Steve Bruce before it's Pochettino or Solskjaer.
Yes, I 100% agree with that.
And when Steve Bruce apparently doesn't understand that Miguel Almiron actually did play in front of 50,000 people. Excellent quote from you, sir. Shows you're not paying attention to the CVs of your players. Come on, man.
Bad. In Spain on Saturday, La Liga, best match of the weekend, Barca hosting Valencia, both kind of in the middle of the table, and they're not used to being in that spot.
No, they're not. I gotta go Barca here, probably another 2-1-ish kind of a thing.
Yeah, I think they find a way to get the win, but I think Atletico's the team to beat in Spain. I think Real Madrid is busted goods, and Barca's not what they have been. So I'm leaning towards Atleti being the favorites in Spain. All right. The game of the weekend, though, is Sunday at 10 o'clock.
Argentina?
Diego Maradona returns to the Argentine League for the first time since 1997. Played for Boca, retired then. He's never worked in the league since. He's at Gimnasia, who are 0-4-1 this season, bottom of the table. They're in the bottom of the Promedios, which is the relegation table. It's over 3 years. Not by two. They can get out of that. Okay. But right now they're in the bottom.
All right.
They're hosting Racing, who were the champs last year. Currently middle of the table. They're 1-1-3. If you didn't see the videos and scenes at Gimnasia when he was there for a training session, It was like a carnival in the street 2 days before his training session. They were singing
with inflatables.
They made inflatables of Maradona's giant head and a number 10 jersey. They packed the stadium out for a training session. They were chanting and singing. He was brought in on a golf cart.
Of course he was.
Well, he just had knee surgery, so I mean, yeah.
No, you don't want to.
He's not running around at this point. He says he's in good health. People were breaking through the security, like running onto the field to hug him.
As they should.
They were singing a classic song in Argentina and jumping, and the song has a line about the one who doesn't jump is an Englishman. They don't like Englishmen in Argentina.
Like Harry Kane saying that I don't.
No, Harry Kane dives. We all know that. No, the one who doesn't jump is English, so you don't want to be English in Argentina.
The one who doesn't dive is Harry Kane.
Yeah, something like that. Diego, like, this could last 2 weeks because it's Diego Maradona.
It is a comet, and you need to grab onto the tail as much as you can.
No, as the great Argentine announcer said when he scored his goal in the World Cup, the greatest goal of all time, he is a cosmic kite, and you don't know where it's going to go. Like, he could be there for the rest of the season. He could lead them out of trouble. He didn't do bad with Dorados in Mexico, honestly. He nearly got them promoted a couple of times.
Yeah.
Ignacia is a club that is basically broke. And I don't know what they're paying him or how they're paying him, but they just sold a whole boatload of tickets because of hiring him. So they've got some attention. We'll see if it actually works out. It will be must-watch TV on Fanatis, on TE said. And for people out there who don't know, the Brewhouse has all your games from the Premier League.
Excellent.
You can get all your games from Germany on the Fox networks. You can get all your games on the VN network from Spain, from France. You can get all your ESPN Plus games from Italy, the Netherlands. You can also get your games from the Argentine League and from the Colombian League. So Parceros out there, if you're listening, you can watch the big Colombian League games and Argentine games here at the Brewhouse as well. And we're going to try to do some stuff with those when we get closer to Copa Libertadores as well, the semifinals. We'll be doing some viewing parties. We'll pick some games of the week when it comes to the Argentine and Colombian League and do some soccer down here get-together. So it'll be very entertaining if you haven't watched some of these leagues and you're looking to get into it. I'm looking forward to doing that once we get into the winter. What else is on the minds of Twitter? What else is on your mind, John?
Well, we're caught up on Twitter.
All right.
So that's all good to go.
Well, what's on your mind? You have things on your mind. Columbus? What do you think about Columbus?
Well, I like to go down to the river. And I like to go, there's a theater where a buddy of mine had
Columbus, Ohio, John.
Just checking.
What do you think about the Columbus Crew under Caleb Porter?
I think that they are better now than when they started, because I was a mess when they started.
Yes.
And sorry, when you asked me a question, you caught me because I was trying to figure out how much the Ignacia gear was going to be and how much it was going to be.
You can do your online shopping afterwards. And you're going to be buying a tracksuit to buy Diego Maradona gear for Ignacia because he ain't playing.
Or get a hat.
You could get an Ignacia hat.
Definitely get a Ignacia hat. But no, I think that Columbus is a lot better than they were when they started. I think that Caleb Porter has finally tried to sit there. It's like, all right, let's just get everything squared away. I think it's going to be a pesky test for Atlanta United. I think that Atlanta United ends up with 4 points, but I think it's going to be intriguing for the first little bit. I think that it's going to take a little while for Atlanta United to get into the game, as much as it is going to be for Columbus as well. First time back from international break. I think the fact that everybody's going to be back under one roof. I'm gonna go with the driving moccasin special. And I'm gonna go ahead and tell it to you right now.
Yeah, because you're gonna pick 2-1 because that's what you always pick. Because it doesn't matter who the opponent is. You pick 2-1.
No, I picked other scores.
You pick 2-1 80% of the time.
Yeah, and it's gotten me trophies.
So we're picking the game for what we think is actually going to happen.
No, I think that Joseph gets one. I think that PT gets one.
Ooh, wow. You're trying to create a narrative. Wow. What, do we have an early line?
We have the early juice box purveyors.
Okay, what is it? You're really excited about this.
Minus 275 for Atlanta United.
Wow. I don't know if I would have set that line.
No.
What's the Columbus side?
Plus 650.
You're a Columbus Crew fan. You feel good about your Crew. There you go. What's the draw option?
Plus 400.
I'll tell you why that's one you want to look at. Columbus has only lost one time in their last 9. But in their last 9, they've only won 3 times. So when you do the math, that means they've drawn 5 times. They're definitely better than they were. They are not where Caleb Porter, I think, will have them next year.
No.
He started to make some of the changes because he plays in a different way than Greg Berhalter does. So it took a little bit of time to adjust it. Pedro Santos is their best player this season by a long shot. He's finally started to come good after his signing looked a little questionable after limited production from him last year. He's got 10 goals this season. They've done this, without Federico Higuain for the most part. Jossie Zardes has 11 goals, not quite as productive as he's been. They are adding some pieces like Luis Diaz, who I like, Costa Rican winger, 20. They're good.
Yeah.
They're not spectacular. They're a difficult team to deal with defensively. And when we look back at their last match and kind of how it played out, they'll be in some version of a 4-3-3. They'll have Will Trapp and Artur playing together in the midfield with Pedro Santos tucked in as the 10. That's actually worked really well for him, replacing Higuain. So if you're a Atlanta fan and maybe not thinking about the result tomorrow night, you want to see Will Trapp play 90 minutes.
Yes.
Because you want him to be tired. Trapp is their most important player, I think, even more important than Santos, because he is the fulcrum for that team from a possession standpoint. I worry about Harrison Awful getting forward down the right side. I think he can be one of their most dangerous players. I want to see if Awful and Luis Diaz can start to build some chemistry on the right side. That could be a really good combination. But if you're Atlanta, you want to look at, Awful's going to go. He's going to bomb forward. Does Diaz drop for it? Does Trapp slide over? How do they deal with it when Awful goes? Because if Awful goes forward, you turn him over, you attack on that side, you're looking at Justin Merrim lighting things up, because there's going to be space for him to do it. If they slide to protect it when Awful goes, then you're looking to the other side. But those are the things you're going to be digging into from a video perspective this week.
Largest favorite on the board right now is Atlanta United this week.
Let's look at the weekend in MLS. We talked about it in other leagues. You can watch all your MLS games here at the Brewhouse as well. Wednesday, you've got NYC and Toronto. Toronto in a pretty desperate spot. I think they need a win in that, preferably, because they've got teams chasing them.
Minus 250.
For NYC?
Oh, Toronto FC. Sorry.
Toronto's a minus?
Toronto FC is a minus 250.
On the road. At Yankee Stadium.
Oh, sorry. I was looking at the other. Their first game.
Okay, yeah.
I was looking at the weekend, sorry.
Okay, we'll get there in a second.
Okay.
So Wednesday, it's NYC and Toronto. It's Houston and Minnesota. It doesn't really matter too much. Minnesota should win that. Colorado hosting the Galaxy. That's interesting out west, as Colorado's been a difficult team to beat. RSL hosting San Jose Wednesday night. That's a fun one. That should be a really good match. The weekend matches, we'll just talk about the Eastern Conference teams, how it affects Atlanta United. NYC hosts San Jose, which I think could be really difficult. The fact is, though, San Jose is coming from playing in Utah to New York. That's a long way to deal with. I want to see how that style translates to a 12:30 kickoff.
Yeah.
9:30 their normal time at Yankee Stadium. I think on the small field, their style can be really difficult.
Yeah.
If they pull 3 points out of NYC, I will not be shocked at all. But does NYC catch them with a weird kickoff time, all that? Chicago hosts FC Dallas on the weekend. Chicago's still got a shot. They have to win this one to make the playoffs.
Yeah.
Montreal hosts Cincinnati. They should win that. Orlando hosts New England. Orlando got a point against LAFC. They maybe should have got more. They're 4 points out of a playoff spot right now, and it's New England in that final spot. Feels like a must-win for Orlando City.
Philadelphia hosts LAFC. That's kind of a referendum game for them. They've had a series of these. They passed the test against Atlanta. Can they beat LAFC? LAFC looked kind of bad against Orlando because they had to go deep into the depth, missing a bunch of players on international duty. We'll see if Carlos Vela's back for that. And then on Sunday, DC goes to Portland. That's a difficult ask. Portland had a huge win on Saturday night. Toronto hosts Colorado. They should handle it okay, but they're coming off a midweek game. Both teams are. Seattle hosts the Red Bulls, who have been cratering as of late. It's this weekend. They're every game with the Eastern Conference teams in the playoff race. I think outside of Montreal and Cincinnati, all of them are somewhat challenging.
Yeah, when you look at the midweek games, no one is in the minus when it comes to the juice box purveyors on Wednesday.
No favorites?
No favorites. NYCFC is at plus 110. Houston's at plus 115. Colorado's at plus 130. Real Salt Lake at plus 137. That's as close as you're going to get.
This is going to be a tricky one for juice boxes.
Yep.
We'll see how the lines move because they will. We'll talk about Wednesday's games then, and I think Wednesday's results will have an effect on the weekend's results. You know, we talked about it on Stoppage Time last week. Atlanta United is in third place in the East. The way we predicted the results would fall, they can still win the East. I think they're still in a decent position to win the East. They don't have to get 3 points against NYC. Where do you think this falls? What's the most important game left for Atlanta United outside of the obvious NYC game? Which is the one that they can't afford to drop points in? That might be difficult.
Okay. As I dial up the schedule.
For me, it's San Jose.
Yeah.
The San Jose game is the one that could jump up and bite you because San Jose is that kind of team.
Yes.
That's the one that worries me the most out of what's left.
Yeah.
So it's Columbus at home, you go to Cincinnati, it's San Jose at home, you go to NYC, you go to Montreal on a Sunday, then it's New England at home to finish it up.
Out of those, yeah, I mean, it's either San Jose and Montreal, 1-2.
The Montreal game's the other. That's a good shout because you're coming off of the NYC game. It is game 5 in 2 weeks because you're Columbus, you're Cincinnati, you are home to San Jose, you're at New York, then you're at Montreal. It's the last game of that stretch before you have a week off before you face New England. You're going to get a little bit of tired legs. You're going to have a Montreal team that is, I think, still in it at that point, very desperate. They're probably going to have 3 points. And a team that by that stage would have played with Bojan Krkic a little bit, would have gotten Joe Cialin, would have gotten their Balu in, they would have gotten their talented players in. They would be a little more difficult to deal with. That one is concerning, but the San Jose one, when San Jose is on, they can borderline be unplayable.
Yeah.
When we see them getting 40 shots in a match and doing what they can do. That could be a very tricky one in the middle of that 2 week span where you're looking ahead to NYC a bit.
Yeah, and then once again, you've got in that 8-day period, on the San Jose, at NYCFC, you fly back, you get region, or do you stay on the road and just kind of stay in the Northeast? That's the other question.
I think the plan at this stage is not to stay out on the road, it's to come back, region, and because it's a Sunday game in Montreal.
Fly back after the match Wednesday night, region, Thursday, light work Friday, fly up Saturday, play on Sunday.
It's not going to be easy.
Nope.
It's not going to be easy, but I think the schedule is the easier one for Atlanta than NYC and Philadelphia, and I think they will take advantage of it. The San Jose one is the one I just keep coming back to. And when we talked about it, I think the Montreal one was what worried more people. San Jose, I don't think they're done. I think this break has helped them rejuvenate a little bit. I think they're going to be difficult.
Well, I mean, yeah, because you're coming off of the game with Cincinnati, which should be one that you take care of at Newton. Then you don't want to get caught looking ahead to NYCFC. That to me is the largest thing of all of this, is don't get caught looking ahead.
Mm-hmm.
And San Jose is that sandwich game where it would end up being the one that you're sitting there going, okay, out of Cincinnati. Oh, hey, there's NYCFC, but oh, by the way, there's that Saturday game in between against San Jose. And San Jose, whether it's Flacco or Erickson or Wando, I mean, we've seen what San Jose can do when they show up here. They come at you from a bunch of different ways, and if you're not careful, San Jose can come up and bite you.
I'm going to read this. I want to get your take on it.
Oh, here we go.
Bobby Warshaw's 24 takeaways for Week 27. What marks success for each team? And I'm sure we'll talk about it tomorrow morning on the show at 9 a.m. For Atlanta, what marks success? Win MLS Cup. He says, it's that simple for Atlanta United. Whenever there's a trophy available, it's win or bust for the Five Stripes. It's the ultimate compliment you could give a club. They're the only team in this category in the league. Fair? Not fair? What do you think? Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's a failure if you don't win MLS Cup because you have the Open Cup, because you have Conference Cup. I wouldn't go as far to say win or bust. Yeah. I mean, obviously, you have a chance to win, you're going to go all out to win. I think that's kind of a no-brainer.
That's the DNA of this club.
Yeah.
So I completely understand it, but I think that the fact that you've already won 2 trophies this year, you're heading back to the hemispheric competition. Yes, I know that you want MLS Cup. You want to chase after that. I get that completely. That's where you're. I mean, if you're not. No, I don't want to win MLS Cup. Yeah, really.
Well, I think, and I disagree that they're the only team in this category in the league, because if LAFC doesn't win MLS Cup, I think
it's an absolute disaster.
If they win the Supporter Shield and set a record and don't win MLS Cup, you would call it a disaster?
See, internally I would. If I was them, if with everything that they've done, every record that they've set, everything that they've accomplished, I will continue to say this. If they win Supporter Shield, don't win MLS Cup, to me it's the Seattle Mariners of 2003.
Was that a disaster?
Yeah, considering that they won 114.
Did Seattle find it to be a disaster?
Yeah, they didn't win it. They got bounced in the second round of the American League playoffs, and you haven't seen them since.
I don't think that was a disaster, though. I don't think LAFC breaking the record for points and having the year that they've had. Now, it could look worse if they finish kind of limping in and they get knocked out in the first rounds. And we're in a different conversation.
Yeah.
But if they set the record, let's say they get 75 points.
Okay, good on you.
Nah, that's not fair. That's not fair. Good. You pat them on the back for setting a new record. They get more than that. They do. I think they have to. I mean, that's.
I'm not denying a regular season of effort and all the things that they will have accomplished. But internally, seriously, internally at LAFC, if you set all of these regular season records and you don't win MLS Cup, something's missing. There's a black hole there.
Yeah, but it's not a disaster. That's what I'm saying. It's like there's a scale. Like if they set that record last year, for example, the Red Bulls not winning MLS Cup, not a disaster. Disappointing, failure for them because they had won a couple supporter shields. This would be trophy 1 for LAFC.
Yeah.
So I think it's a little unfair to say it'd be a disaster, but I also think it's unfair to say that they're not in that category of if Atlanta's MLS Cup or bust with a trophy in the bag already, LAFC should be MLS Cup or bust if that's what the league narrative is going to be.
Yeah.
I don't think it's the case in either one, truly. I think if Atlanta gets knocked out in the first round of the playoffs, it is a failure.
Yeah.
The year is not a failure, but that would be a failure.
Check, yes.
If LAFC win the Supporter Shield, set a record, and get knocked out in the first round of the playoffs, it would be a failure for that to happen.
Yeah.
The year would not be a failure or a disaster. If LAFC don't make the final, but win Supporter Shield and do it, it's disappointing. If Atlanta doesn't make the final, it's disappointing. I think they're in the same league right now because we can give the Supporter Shield to LAFC at this point.
Sure.
And probably give them a record. They got a trophy in the bag. Atlanta would have a trophy in the bag. Okay, you're good. Atlanta's got the defending championship in the bag.
If you don't win it again, it's not a failure. It's not a disaster. If LAFC doesn't win MLS Cup, I don't think it's a disaster. I don't think it's fair to put them there. But I think those are the two teams that you're using the failure word if they don't win MLS Cup in some ways.
And I think that, once again, we're on Monday.
It's how, though, too, how you get there.
Correct. I think that since it's Monday, and the more that we associate with it, overreaction.
Well, you went full Warshaw.
Don't you ever.
You went full Warshaw.
Don't ever. Don't you ever.
You went with the
say that I'm the same thing as Robert Warshaw Esquire. I'm never the same as someone like that. Where did that come from, Mr. Lawson?
Where did that come from? What was that?
Don't ever.
Hey, you said it. I'm just saying.
But you're comparing me to Warshaw?
You went disaster with a record-setting season.
Internally for them, I'm sure.
No.
Oh, what? It's what? They're gonna walk around like here. Oh, I'm sorry, we had a disaster. It's disappointing season.
If I'm LAFC and I get 75 points to set a new record and win the Supporters Shield and have the year that we've had, if they get knocked out in the first round again and they don't win a playoff game, I might be able to go down that road with you, depending on how they lose.
Depending on
how they lose.
If they fade and then they crash out in their first playoff round?
If they get 75 points, it's going to be hard to complain. I think you're really moving the goalposts if you start saying that 75 points is a bad year. If they get beat 3-0 in the first round of the playoffs, okay. Well,
if you have this late season fade,
I'm even going to throw that out because 75 points is 75 points. I don't care how you finish it. That's impressive. They've never won anything before, so I think it's a different conversation.
I want to see how it is in the playoffs with something on the line with all these guys who've never been there before.
Oh no, I want to see that too. Well, they've been there, they just lost. I mean, that's the thing is they went to the playoffs last year. They just got beat in their own house.
With all the expectation.
Yeah, no, it's different. I mean, that's absolutely true. If they get bounced in the first round, then yeah, that's the narrative that starts. But it becomes the Red Bulls narrative, where the Red Bulls have won 3 Supporters Shields, and that's an accomplishment. That's a good thing. But when you get the third one, and you have the record year you have, and you lose in the conference final, you don't make it to MLS Cup because they didn't got there. All right, but when you win your first Supporters Shield in your second year, and you had the best season in league history, I think you've got leeway, just like we talked about with Atlanta going into the Open Cup. If you win that tournament, if you win that trophy, you get back into CONCACAF, you have a little house money to play with. Yeah. I think if LAFC sets the record, wins the Supporters Shield, they've got some house money to play with. Now, they might blow it if they get bounced badly in the first round. If they lose on penalties, it's a different conversation. Yeah. We'll get into this tomorrow. We'll get into the rest of the takeaways, what marks success for each team, get into other news around the league. We'll get into more of U.S. and Uruguay as well. Tomorrow night, we will have a live pregame show from Pizzeria Azzurri in Cumming. We are going way up north.
Way up north.
The GPS will be set for this long excursion. We might need to borrow Santa's reindeer to get there.
Yeah, really?
But we will be at Pizzeria Azzurri tomorrow night. So for the Suburban Ultras way out there, we will see you guys. And we'll be doing a pregame show you can listen to on the SDH app ahead of USA and Uruguay. Morning show back in the morning, 9 to 11 on the app, on soccerdownhere.net, on Spreaker. Thanks again to the Brewhouse for having us. We're here every Monday, 6 to 8, talking soccer, taking questions on Twitter. Nick Alesi will be here next week, so he can yell at you about calling you like Bobby Warshaw, so you can freak out. It'll all be good. It'll all be good next week. It'll all be good in the morning.
Mucha pizzeria, y'all.
Yes, mucha cerveza, y'all.